Hello everyone. In this video, you are going to see how to create a custom Amazon machine image. So Amazon machine image or an AMI is an image of an operating system with the necessary software pre-installed. So it saves you time in installing the requisite software, doing the configuration, etc. if you are going to repeat that process again and again and again. So instead of having an AMI with just the operating system, as a one-time activity, you can launch an EC2 instance with the required operating system, install the necessary software, do the configuration, create a custom AMI from that EC2 instance. And now whenever you want a similar kind of instance with the same set of software and configuration, instead of starting from scratch with just the OS, you can launch your EC2 instance from the custom created AMI. So it comes ready-made with the software and configuration. And so advantage of this is it will save you a lot of time for repeatable tasks. Also, it reduces human effort because now you have standardized like the software and the configuration and baked it as part of the AMI itself. So you don't have to do it again and again, and hence possibly miss out on one of the steps. So these are the advantages. Some of the disadvantages are now you need to create an AMI whenever, let's say, there's an update to the software version, or you are doing patching, or you want to configure it in slightly different way. And then it sometimes becomes difficult to maintain and keep track of AMIs and the versions, and now which EC2 instance is running from which version of an AMI. Do you need to update it, and so on. So there are pros and cons. So let's try to visualize how this process actually helps in a repeated deployment. So let's say you want to deploy a web application. The usual way of starting is you launch an EC2 instance from a base AMI provided by, let's say, Amazon for the choice of your operating system. So let's say you launch an EC2 instance using Ubuntu AMI. So that is your first step. Then you will do the system updates. You will install the necessary software, like you will install, let's say, the Apache HTTP server to host a web server. You will install the necessary platform software like PHP if your website is running on PHP. Then you might install the necessary database software, do the configurations of the database software, create the database for your application. Then you will launch your application code, and then you are ready to use. Now, this is going to take a long time if you want to do it again and again and again, right? So if this is a popular application and you need to deploy it again and again and again, obviously you can imagine how much time it is going to take every time you do this. So better option is you build all the things that are common as a one-time activity, and from that you create your custom AMI. And then if you want, you can launch you can deploy your application code, and your application becomes ready on this EC2 instance. And any additional EC2 instances that you want to launch, now instead of starting from scratch from Ubuntu AMI, you can launch it from your custom AMI, which will now already have the necessary software installed and configured. You just need to deploy your code, and application is ready to use. So again, you launch an EC2 instance from your custom AMI, deploy the code, application is ready to use. So this way it is going to save you a lot of time and reduce human effort. So let's see how to do this. So you can launch an EC2 instance. So I will deploy a sample application that I have written using PHP. So I'm going to launch an Ubuntu EC2 instance. I'll keep the default size T2 micro to keep it under free tier. I'll keep everything as the defaults. I will say this is my base instance. So I'm going to build this instance with the necessary software. Now I will launch this instance, and then I will prepare it. So I'm going to log into this EC2 instance using the key pair, and because I launched an Ubuntu like instance from an Ubuntu AMI, the username will be Ubuntu. So I'm already using a key pair that I had generated. So I am using that key pair, and hence I will be able to log into the CC2 instance without giving the user ID or password. So hopefully the instance is ready by now. Okay, so give it a second. Yeah, so now the instance is ready and I can log in. So the first thing I would do is I would update the uh, system patches or packages. Once that is done, then I can install the necessary software like Apache 2 and PHP. So Apache 2 is the Apache HTTP server software, and PHP module will be able to run this as a PHP server. So I can run server side code on my HTTP server. Then I will also install MySQL server as my database server on this. And then I'm also going to install php-mysql so that my PHP code can use MySQL client connection to connect to the database. Once this is done, then I'm going to edit the MS SQL configuration file. Okay, it is mysqld.cnf, and instead of the bind address as 127, I am going to give it at 0.0.0.0, so that instead of running on a local port, my database server can listen on it's all the IP addresses configured on this server, so that if I want to connect from outside also, it will work. And then I'm going to restart the service. I'll just check the service once. It is running, and then I can enable this service so that whenever the server starts, the MySQL server will automatically start. Now, once this is done, now I would want to create a database for my application. So I'm going to change to root and then connect to the database as the root user. And then I'm going to run some commands in the database to create a database, to create some users, to create a table, and give these users permission on all the tables in this database. So I'm just going to go and run each of these commands. So I'm creating a user called as user1 and with this password, and this user can be used to connect to the database from the local host, that is from the server itself, or from outside. And now I'm going to create a database called as test2, then change to this database, and then I'm going to create a table with these different columns. Once I have created the table, now I'm going to grant permissions on this all the tables of this database to user1. So user1 coming from the local host as well as from the external. Okay, so now if I see the databases, the database test2 has been created, and if I see the tables, this table is also created with all these different columns. So my database is ready, Now what I would want to do is I would want to clone my GitHub repo and pick up the code for a sample application. So I've changed to TMP directory and I'm going to clone this web pages repo, and I'm going to change to this directory after cloning it. So here I've got a sample application 2-tier app which has a web application code. So I'm going to copy this code to var www html. So this is where the Apache HTTP server will read the web content and launch a website. And now I'm going to change to this directory, and I'm just going to delete the default index.html that comes when Apache is installed. Okay, so there's one thing. And yeah, so I guess uh, this application should be ready now. So let me check if it works. Okay, so I think I need to restart the Apache server after installing PHP. And yeah, so now application is working. So I can try and add some entries and they get added into the database. Okay, so now this application is ready. So you saw how much time it took me to make this application ready. So instead of this, what we can do is we can create a custom AMI from this EC2 instance, and then we can deploy the code as part of launching a new instance. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut down this server and create an AMI from this server. So I'm going to just go to the instance and stop the server. So it's recommended that you first stop the instance so that all the files, all the disk is in sync, no changes are happening, and then you can create an AMI from this. Now in this demo, I actually also pulled in the code and launched the code and made it ready end to end. But in a real scenario, what you would typically do is you would install Apache, PHP, MySQL, do the necessary database configurations, maybe also create the database structure and stop there, stop the EC2 instance, create an AMI from it, and then you can, if you want to use this, reuse this instance to have your application, then deploy your application code and launch the application. And then from the created AMI, which is everything except the application code, is what you can use as your base AMI to launch new EC2 instances. So that even if you have a slightly different application version, say suppose you upgrade the version of the application, then you don't want to inherit that as part of the AMI. So you could create an AMI before you deploy the application and then use that AMI whenever you need new application instances, launch an EC2 instance, just deploy the code and make it ready. So it will save you a lot of time. So let's see how to create an AMI. So once you have your EC2 instance stopped, you can go to actions, and in the images and template, you have the option to create an image. So give it a name. So let me call it my 2-tier app AMI. You can optionally give some description, and rest of the things you can keep as it is and then create an image. Now when creating an image, what AWS will do is AWS will take a snapshot of the root disk, and from the snapshot an AMI will be created. So it's a two-step process, and there's an option to tag the image and snapshots together. So whatever tag you have given, same will be applied to the snapshot as well as the AMI. or if you want to tag them separately, you can tag them separately also. So creating an AMI takes some time. So once you click on create AMI, then you can either go to this AMI's option, and I'll remove all my filters and select this as owned by me. So whatever AMIs you create will appear under owned by me. So here you can see this is showing in pending. So it will take some time because it first needs to take a snapshot of the root disk, and from that snapshot this AMI will be created. So the snapshots will be visible here under the Elastic Block Store snapshots option. So you can see this is in pending state. So we'll wait for some time till this completes. Then this and the AMI will become available, and then we can launch more instances from our custom AMI. Okay, so now the snapshot is completed, and so should be the AMI. So okay, so AMI is still pending. So it will get attached to this snapshot and should be available in a moment. Okay, so now the AMI is also available for us to use. So now we will launch an EC2 instance from this AMI and see how quickly we are able to get our application up and running. So I'll select this AMI and click on launch an instance from this image. I will keep the size and rest of the things as default and give it a different name. So let's say app1. Select the security group so that it has HTTP access. And launch the instance. So we'll wait for this instance to come to running state. So it is in running state. Let me see if I can connect to it. Okay. And now if I check the status of database, it is up and running. Status of Apache server, it is up and running. So if I simply try to access this URL, you can see it is up and running. And because I took a snapshot after I created an entry, that entry has also come. But I should have created a snapshot before starting the application. But hope that gives you an idea as to how quickly you can get up and running. So this was the earlier site from the previous instance, which is currently in the stop state. So this will not be running anymore. And this is the newly launched instance. So you can see how quickly you can get up, started and running by creating a custom AMI for repeatable tasks. Now, when you launch EC2 instances from AMI, the EC2 instance is completely independent of the AMIs. So you can create EC2 instances, you can delete EC2 instances independent of the AMI, as well as you can delete the AMI also, even if you have some running EC2 instances that were launched from this AMI. So to delete an AMI, what you need to do is the AMI is just an entry for a snapshot, right? So in order to delete an AMI, you have to first delete, or what we call as deregister, the AMI, and then you also need to go and delete the snapshot. So until that time, you will be charged for the storage consumed by the snapshot. So AMIs are not separately chargeable. You are chargeable only for the underlying snapshot capacity. So we'll just note down what is the snapshot that is being used by our AMI. So this is the snapshot 3A1. So first we will delete the AMI. So select the AMI and then click on actions and select deregister AMI. So this will take some time. And once, yeah, so I think now the AMI is deregistered. So once the AMI is deregistered, then you can go to the snapshot and then you can try to delete the snapshot. Until and unless you have deregistered the AMI, you cannot delete the snapshot. So if the AMI exists, you cannot delete the snapshot. So this is how you can clean up any unwanted AMIs. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.